Hello, everyone. This is another Black Conservative. I am Ryan Boland. Thank you all for joining me. What I want to talk about in this video is a liberal article that I read from The Guardian, which is basically a liberal news site. And in this article, it essentially states that experts, such as medical doctors, have stated that gun violence in America has had a very negative effect on Black people in particular. And what they are referencing in this article is the situation that happened in Jacksonville, Florida, where 3 innocent Black Americans were shot and killed by what has been proven to be a racially motivated act of brutal violence. And so they are arguing in this particular article that Blacks all over America, basically, and particularly in Jacksonville, are really traumatized by this. And the trauma that they're referencing is a fear of white people, or a fear of white systemic racism, or rather, to rephrase it, the problem here is white systemic racism and white supremacy, rather. That's the big issue here. The reason why Blacks are afraid of getting shot and so forth is because of white supremacy and systemic racism. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read and analyze and critique this article the best of my ability. I have read the article thoroughly, and I've seen the talking points, and I'm going to critique this article to the best of my ability. I'm going to read to you what these so-called experts are saying. I'm going to give you my view on that. But once again, what I wanted to say here before I go any further into this is that my heart and my prayer goes out to the family members who have lost their loved ones in this horrible, horrible tragedy. My deepest prayers and condolences to the family members of the deceased. But this is what they're basically saying. They're arguing that, this is the issue here. So let's get right into this. The title of the article really sufficiently is entitled, "Where is Safe? Gun Violence Takes Particular Toll on Mental Health of Black Americans." And may I argue, just with the title, that I don't believe gun violence is the issue with Black Americans. I think it's more or less violence being committed with guns. Acts of violence being committed with guns. That's an issue for not only Black Americans, but Americans in particular. But I'm going to get into the deeper aspects of my commentary and critique as we get into this article. And it starts off, "America's escalating epidemic of gun violence is detrimental to the mental health of millions of Americans. But experts say that Black people in particular tend to deal with a specific kind of despair with regard to mass shootings." So that's the premise right there. They're building a premise. "This country's latest incident of targeted violence is the problem of that crisis. On Saturday, a white gunman shot and killed 3 Black people at a Dollar General store in Jacksonville, Florida, an attack that officials have charged as a hate crime. The shooter intentionally targeted Black shoppers after first stopping at Edward Waters University, a historically Black university, where he was spotted in the parking lot by a campus security guard. The Jacksonville shooting is reminiscent of previous mass shootings targeting Black people in recent years. Last May, a white gunman killed 10 Black people at a Buffalo, New York grocery store." All these are factual. These are all facts. Facts are facts, whether it's coming from the left or the right. Facts are facts. Numbers are numbers. These things actually happened. They're not wrong in stating these factual data. This stuff happened. So I'm not some conservative that denies that there aren't white people out there that want to kill Black people. I'm not some black conservative that denies that. I'm not denying these are factual. This stuff that actually happened. But I'm going to get into the detail of what I believe this liberal biased article is trying to communicate. Says a white gunman killed 10 Black people at Buffalo, New York grocery store, specifically driving to a Black neighborhood to seek out his victims. In 2015, another white supremacist killed 9 Black churchgoers in Charleston, South Carolina, and showed no remorse during court proceedings for the 33 federal charges of which he was convicted. Ongoing exposure to such acts of violence can have a compounding effect on black people, according to experts. They keep talking about experts. Notice in the article, they mention experts 3 or 4 times, but about 3 times it's about, before they actually give the credentials or the names of these so-called experts. There's a reason for that. They put the word experts in there a lot because they're putting in the minds of the reader this idea that whatever these so-called experts say is totally true and totally factual. But we're going to read what they actually have to say. I don't want to jump too far ahead of this critique, but we're going to read what they actually have to say. So I'm going to read it again. Ongoing exposure to such acts of violence can have a compounding effect on black people, according to experts. Notice also how they isolating black people. It says, we do not have a quality infrastructure for supporting black Americans with overwhelming racism and racialized violence that our communities experience, said Jessica Lepresti, a psychology professor at Suffolk University. Okay, these doggone names. Never heard of that kind of university. Have you? I don't know. Here's one thing I want to look at right here too. I want to critique this part here which says, where this professor, psychology professor, says, we do not have a quality infrastructure for supporting black Americans with overwhelming racism and racialized violence that our communities experience. First of all, what do you mean a quality infrastructure? What do you mean a quality infrastructure? What are you talking about? A building? Talking about an institution? What do you mean by that? What kind of infrastructure or institution that black people who are fearful and racialized violence needs in order to suppress that fear or be able to deal with that fear? What are you talking about quality infrastructure? What are you talking about? A hospital? This is what kills me. Unless this professor is suggesting or implying that the government is always go to the government to find the answers, right? That the government needs to create some kind of institutional infrastructure for black people who have supposedly been traumatized by white systemic racism and violence initiated against them. Here go the division again, constant division. Let me say this before I read any further. I find it interesting that this professor would say this because from what I can understand, I think I saw a clip of this in a news clip where reporters asked the chief of police of Jacksonville to his comments on the shooting. And it seemed apparent that the question that they asked him was a loaded question. It basically was a question that tried to politicize the situation and make it all about systemic racism or white supremacy. And the chief of police, who is a black man, by the way, didn't fall for it. He knew what they was going to do. He said he didn't, and I'm paraphrasing what he said. He knew what they was going to. He knew what they were doing. And I'm going to paraphrase what he said in the small part that I did get a chance to see what he said. He says this situation is not some. He said this situation is just some messed up person that decided to take the lives of other people. You could clearly see that he was not trying to take this situation right, this incident involving this white man, and try to make an umbrella statement towards all white people. That's really what this is all about, really. But let's go on. He wasn't falling for that. And this statement by this psychology professor, which is what kills me about these psychology professors in a lot of these liberal controlled colleges and universities, they themselves have been inundated by liberal worldviews. But I'm not going to get into the detail of that because that goes all the way back to the 1930s, Frankfurt School Marxist professors and people like John Dewey, who changed the whole setup of the school systems in America. Oh yeah, do your own study on that. You'll find out. Yeah, but anyway, he goes on. So he goes to say, this professor goes on to say, while all Americans, the article goes on to say, while all Americans are affected by the threat of gun violence, black people face an additional fear of being targeted due to, here we go. Black people face an additional fear of being targeted due to white supremacy, which can create intense anxiety and stress. Quote, when we talk to white folks about their experiences of violence, Lepresti said, quote, it's unlikely that they are being targeted just because of who they are, end quote. Now, let me say something about that statement right there. Let me critique this. There has been incidences of gun violence and physical acts of violence, in particular, against white people, particularly in the years 2015. Whites were being attacked. And it wasn't, I'm going to take it back about gun violence. I don't think it was any gun violence was involved, but it was a increase of attacks against white people in certain cities throughout the country, particularly in 2015 and I think later on, where young people would walk up to white people and just assault them and punch them. I think several people may have passed away because when you punch and knock somebody out, they hit the ground. Clearly, the ground is not made of moth. The ground is not made of cushion. It's not made of cotton. You hit your head, you're going to hit your head and injure yourself, and you could get killed. You could die from a head injury. These were clearly, if you were to ask these white people that were assaulted by these black teenagers during this time period, I'm pretty sure that they would believe that they were being targeted for being white. And this happens quite often. It's hush-hush in the mainstream media, but there are a lot of white people that are being targeted by black people and younger black people in particular who have been radicalized in the school systems to attack white people. Why? Because white people are the oppressors. Here's my critique of this. What this professor is really doing is this professor is basically saying is that black people need to, the way I'm seeing it, black people need to fear white people in general. These acts of violence that was just named in this article were acts of horrible, deplorable, sickening acts of violence created and initiated by people who clearly was off. They was crazy. They more like clearly they were racist. Because they say they were racist. I mean, you can't deny the racist part in there. But the problem with trying to take these incidents, these horrible incidences that are not justified at all, and try to push this idea of white supremacy out there is designed to get black people to feel this way about white people in general. Let me tell you a factual date situation. Most of the 160 million white people in this country are not racist. Are you kidding me? Most of them are not racist. Think about it. You really think that a significant number of black people are traumatized with these situations here that happened here in Jacksonville, Florida, and some other situations where the white people walking up and shooting them and so forth? Do you really believe that they have a general fear of white supremacy and white people in general? I don't think so. I'm going to tell you what I think most black people really fear and are concerned about the most. What most black people fear and are concerned about the most, in particularly lower income areas and the ghetto areas and inner city areas, is other black people committing acts of crime against them with guns. Now let's deal with the statistical data. Statistics state that more than 90% of acts of violence and homicides against black people are from other black people. So you combine those numbers together and then compare them with these people like this article just named about the guy that killed the 10 black people in Baltimore and the guy here that kills the three black people in Jacksonville, Florida. Combine all those numbers together and then compare them to the amount of black on black homicide rates, and you're going to fall the other side's going to fall way below. So who are black people actually being fearful of? Are they fearful of white systemic racists? Or are they fearful of when they go home at night, they get off from work, worked hard all day, they go home and they fear some thug gonna try to rob them? And usually a black thug. This is what I hear, first of all the time from black people where I work at Tower City. And when I say black people, I'm not talking about the workers. I'm talking about the pedestrians that I have to deal with. They tell me this quite often. I don't hear any of them talking about, I may hear a few of them that's just brainwashed and dumbed down, but for the most part, most of them, and they're usually older people too. They're usually older people because a lot of the younger people have been inundated by the liberal establishment and inundated by these communist, Marxist infiltrated school systems to believe in this nonsense. So they under mind control. But a lot of these older people come from a generation where they believed in right and wrong. They come from a generation where true law and order was in place. And now they're seeing an increase in a lack of law and order that's having a negative effect on the inner city black people among other black, that is initiated by other black people. Yes, you have some of these crazy people doing, like these white people doing, yeah, of course, obviously. But is that a major, major concern? This is what this professor is trying to make it look like, in my eyes. Let's go on. That threat of being targeted and discriminated against extends to almost every public place, according to Kenneth Hardy, a therapist and expert on racial trauma. Remember, they're naming these individuals now, these experts now. They're naming them now. They're naming it their particular profession. But prior to that, it was all expert. That's to get into your subconscious, this idea that these people know what they're talking about, right? So whatever they say, even if it contradicts other areas of factual data, is absolutely true. But notice this, he says, a therapist, an expert on racial trauma, and the fear, let me read that again. That threat of being targeted and discriminated against extends to almost every public space, according to Kenneth Hardy, a therapist and expert on racial trauma, and the fear then becomes internalized, especially as hate crimes in the U.S. are on the rise. He says, quote, where is a safe place for black people to be? Hardy asks. Where is a safe place for black people to be? Not church, not the playground, not the supermarket, not the library, not the university, not the classroom. There's nowhere. So there's a constant anxiety that black people live with. So before I read any further, let's analyze this again. This goes back to my argument before. He says, okay, where is a safe place for black people to be? Good question. He asked this question. This person asked a question. Good question. Not church, not the playground, not the supermarket, not the library. Okay, because in the supermarket, somebody got shot in the supermarket. You know, that guy went in Baltimore, went in the supermarket and killed those people. That white guy went in the church, killed them 9 people. Okay. University killed the people, you know. Okay, they did this. But how common is that? That's the question. How common is it that white people who are inundated with this so-called white supremacy situation, or who clearly are mentally ill, how common is these kind of people targeting black people and killing them in mass? How common is that as compared to, hey, it's not safe in the playground. You want to know why it's not safe in the playground? That's not a safe place because most of the acts of violence that are committed against black people in the playground is other black people. You want to know why it's not safe in, you know what I'm saying, in the classroom? Not safe in the classroom because most of the acts of violence that are committed against blacks and are other black people. That's where most of the violence comes from. These policies that these progressive liberals create that are supposed to help protect black people actually is the reverse. It actually victimizes black people and puts them in danger. Let's go on. So he said, so watch this, there's nowhere there. So there's a constant anxiety that black people live with. I love how these professors put words in black people's mouths. We're living in constant fear, right? Constant anxiety. What this professor is saying is that this constant anxiety is from white people. This constant anxiety is not from black people. It's not from other black people. It's not from the thugs. It's not from the gangbangers. It's not from the criminals, black criminals. It's not from them, even though that's most of the problems they have. It's not from them. No. It's from these white people who are inundated with the mindset of white supremacy, who's going to take you out. Folks, your least fear is white people. Most white people want to avoid black people that have that mentality. I see it all the time. They're always apologizing to me. If I'm on my bike and I say this is letting the video on the pass, I'm riding on my bike. I'm at work. I got my uniform on. I am dressed to the T. You can look at the words on the back of my shirt that says security. I have my helmet on. Everybody that sees me can see me a mile away. My shirt is yellow. Pants are dark blue. You can see me a mile away. You can see the word that says security. And yet, a significant amount of time when I'm riding on the sidewalk with my bike and I'm riding across, some white people coming across, they get scared and they're moving up. They're either moving out of the way or I'm sorry. They're overly apologetic and they think they ran across me the wrong way or whatever. Walk across me the wrong way. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. Or they're fearful. I can see the fear in their eyes. Where does that come from? If white supremacy was a major problem in America, like this professor is trying to put out here with black people, that we live in constant anxiety, then why are so many white people living in constant anxiety towards black people? Because I see it all the time. Most white people now, and let's be realistic. I know that's just within my particular area of, and I don't want to overgeneralize it because that's my personal experience. So let me reiterate that this is my personal experience. But I really honestly believe that 160 million people in this country that are white, because they make up over 60% of the population of over 300 million people in this country. Over 160 million of them are white. That's 60%. I really don't believe that most of them white folks are inundated with systemic racism and embrace white supremacy. And that blacks ought to be afraid of just about every white person they run across, because my experience is they have the opposite feeling towards me. And I'm a security officer. And I'm like, I'm not here to hurt you. I'm not your enemy. I'm not your enemy. I'm nobody's enemy. The only enemy, well, let me put it back. The only enemy that I am is to the knucklehead, the thug that wants to be a criminal, and the person that wants to disobey the laws. I'm an enemy to them. But I'm an enemy to them not because I make myself an enemy. I'm an enemy to them because I represent authority. And they have a problem with that. But if they got a problem with that, that's their problem. I don't care. You need to get your act together. Okay? But that's what I'm talking about here. This professor, okay, is trying to condense all this into one package. Let's go on. I know this is going longer than usual. It says, let's see. It says, there's nowhere. So there's a constant anxiety that black people live with. Lepresti added that police violence against black people also exacerbates safety concerns, as many of them feel that calling law enforcement could open them up to additional brutality. And this is the part that bothers me. But I'm going to give you my word. The racialized violence that we've seen at the hands of police officers have led black people in black communities to feel as if there's no one we can call. Lepresti said, that's a lie. That's a lie. That's not true. Says, there's no one who we can sort of trust to value us as much as we value each other. Do you really? Do black people really value each other like that? Do we really value each other like that? If we really valued each other like this, then why is the black homicide rate higher than all the other ethnic groups? And I'm not just talking about gang violence neither. Black on black violence. I hear this all the time. Black people, some of the black people that I hear downtown when I'm working, I'm using it as an example again. The ones that come from that area, that have that mentality, okay, that ghetto mentality, that hood mentality. I kill that NIGGA. I kill it. Yeah, that's all they say. That's all they think. When there's an argument, that's what they say. Forget about just having an argument and just calling it a day. They got to kill somebody. So if we value each other so much, then why is the homicide rate higher among our ethnic group, black folks, than all the other ethnic groups in the freaking country? Let's be realistic here, man. That's a contradiction to me. And he makes a statement. Let me say something too about this, the law enforcement and police brutality. Does police brutality exist? Yes, it does. I'm not of the one that says police brutality doesn't exist. Yes, it does. But let's be realistic. This statement that this so-called expert said here about police brutality, the reason why, one of the main reasons, if not the only reason why, a lot of these police interactions end up with somebody getting shot by the police or whatever, is because of the actions of the person, not because the police officer is racist. I'd say 90-something% of the time, the police officer is simply trying to do their job. It's because of the actions of the black person that is acting up, resisting arrest, don't want to pull over, making accusations against a cop, cussing the cop out, running from the police officer. All of these type of foolish things that blacks tend to do, that this certain segment of blacks tend to do when approached by a white police officer, is what ends up becoming something that it ought not to become, which is an act of violence. Most police officers, statistically speaking, want to do their job right, white, black, or whatever. You may have this small group that is not doing their job right. You may have this small group that is abusing their power and authority. But is that a major problem in the black community? And the answer to that, I believe, is no. It's no. This whole thing about, the racialized violence that we've seen at the hands of police officers have led black people in black communities to feel as if there's no one we can call. Really? So why do black people call the police when there's a situation going on? And somebody will argue, well, because police officers don't do anything. You want to know why the police officers take their time, drag their feet, or don't do much? Because of the accusations that they get from us of accusing them of systemic racism, especially if it's a white police officer. Stop playing games, tell the truth. If it's a white police officer and they respond to the situation about how slow or whatever, first thing a lot of these ghetto-minded black people will start doing is, oh man, you just don't do this. And it happens every single time. So you know what, well, I won't say every single time. Let me not overstate that. But you know what police officers are starting to do? They're starting to pull back. White police officers in particular. They're starting to pull back because they feel they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. If they respond to the call and respond to the call on time, and there's a situation where they have to use physical force and they use physical force, what happens? You being racist, you're abusing your power. When 90% of the time, if not even higher the percentage, is because the black person is acting in a way that puts the police officer in a position to up the ante, if you will, to up the defensive protocols. Unbelievable, man. It's just bad. It's just bad. Our attitude has to change eventually, man. It just has to change. And it'll never change if people within the black community continue to allow these people to brainwash them, okay? I was going to read a little bit more of this because this is going slow. It says mass shootings like the ones in Jacksonville, Buffalo, can also have a cumulative negative effect on black people's mental health. Okay. Experts noted that the pain caused by an individual event sits on top of grief associated with other instances of racial trauma. These incidents are not happening in isolation, said Thelma Bryant, president of the American Psychological Association. Notice all these medical people. It's all medical, right? Medical for the most part. Medical. I did another video in the past about most of these people are medicals and psychiatrists and psychologists, right? What's up with all these psychologists and psychiatrists? One could argue, well, they majoring in people's minds and so forth. Yeah, they major in it all right, but it sounds something funky is going on, but I'm not gonna get into that. It says, quote, we as people of African descent and black Americans live with the intergenerational wounds of racism and recognize the harms that have happened as a result of racism that are not only historical but continue today. Yeah, this is just crazy. I'm not going to read any more of that. You guys can read the rest of that in the comment box below. But yeah, I wanted to critique just a portion of that article to give you guys a general understanding of what I think. I think that what these professors and these experts are doing is they're trying to paint this picture of systemic racism and white supremacy on all white people. That's keeping blacks and whites further separated and divided against each other and keeping blacks voting for the Democrats. It's all political for the most part. As long as you can keep people thinking a certain way, they're going to vote a certain way. As long as you keep people thinking a certain way, they are going to vote a certain way. And in part, these psychiatrists, these doctors and so forth, these so-called experts are in bed basically with the Progressive Democratic Party. They're in bed with them. But I had to say that, I know this went longer than normally. This is my longest video, but I wanted to critique that video. Critique that article because I wanted you guys to understand my point of view on it. And I'm trying my best to give you factual data based on my own research and my own studies. I know everybody's not going to agree, and I dig that. I get it. But it's best to hear both sides of the story rather than just hearing one side. That article was from a liberal perspective. It was a liberal article. And every now and then I will read and critique liberal articles as well. Okay. So that way no one think, well, are you just an echo chamber? No, I critique liberal articles and liberal worldviews as well. So I just wanted to say that. What do you guys think? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel. God bless you all and see you again.